Coming up on tonight's UAP News Show.
Dr. Greer, expect UFO disclosure before Trump takes office.
Hey there, beautiful souls. It's your girl, Allie, and we are back at it again for another episode of UAP Society's weekly UAP News Show. I am stoked to get started, so without further ado, Justin, say hey.
Greetings, cosmic enthusiast. It's Justin here. Let's dive right in.
Up first, Dr. Greer says expect UFO disclosure before Trump takes office. All right, everyone, buckle up because this episode is packed with explosive revelations. We've got Dr. Stephen Greer dropping bombshells about drones, a potential connection with the Cybertruck bomber. Plus, he says whistleblowers will step forward in the next 10 days.
10 days.
10 days. What could they have to reveal? We'll also be diving into a story about a glowing sphere spotted over the Bahamas by a flight crew, an FBI investigation into a drone collision during the California Palisades fires, and updates on last week's stories. But that's not all. We'll also hear from President-elect Donald Trump, who's promising answers about the mysterious drones spotted across New Jersey and all over the damn place, really, the day after he gets inaugurated. So Let's just get started.
Up first, we have a clip of Dr. Stephen Greer where he shares explosive updates about the drone situation, the Cybertruck bomber, and more. The biggest bombshell, however, is that he says one of his whistleblowers will come forward with major revelations within the next 10 days, just before Trump's inauguration. This is a must-watch. Let's get right to it.
The last 5 weeks, we have continued to cover whatever it is that's happening in the skies all over the world. Mysterious drones now being reported over parts of 50 states and in countries across the globe. And if you followed this story even just a little bit, you'll realize that what people are seeing and recording, this is not stuff that comes from this planet, and the complete silence on this topic from our government has only added fuel to the many theories that are now circulating right now on the internet. Dr. Stephen Greer is back with us. He's the founder of the Disclosure Project. Dr. Greer has been consistent with us for weeks that there is a disclosure coming before the presidential inauguration, which now leaves us with 10 days. Dr. Greer, it's great to have you back. This is where we are right now. A flight crew on a commercial airplane recorded this large orb in the skies while they were at 17,000 feet. Right. Does this disclosure happen next week? And if it does, how does it happen? When it starts happening, how will we know?
Well, it'll be all over the news. It's good to see you again. I just heard an hour ago from we call the NOC. He's a non-official cover aerospace intelligence community, a senior operator from one of the key two black sites out in the western United States. And they are preparing to do this next week. I don't have an exact date. They intend to not only provide their testimony of operations, he's been there almost 30 years, but also the evidence and other details. Now, he's been involved in two things. One is the testing and the surveillance of the man-made UAPs that have been manufactured out of the Lockheed Skunk Works and Northrop Grumman complexes out in the high desert. Okay. The other is the targeting of non-human craft. Some would say extraterrestrial, some say alien. The words they're using now is NHI, non-human intelligence, and the downing of those objects. So he's been intimately involved. I've been at his facility, and that is on track. Now, keep in mind, so much of what is being seen now is sort of a decoy false flag operation, sort of trying to intercept what he's going to be doing and what we've been doing for some time.
But there's no way, Dr. Greer, we've talked about there's no way all of this can be a false flag. It's all over the world now. It's being seen over cities in India, cities in South Korea. It's just the coordination that would be required to do something like that. I think it's beyond the scope, unless there is something going on that I'm completely unaware of, which, of course, is a possibility. 3 questions. These are just yes or no's. Are aliens already here? Yes or no?
Oh, sure. I mean, there have been non-human extraterrestrial civilizations that have been observing the planet for thousands of years, and it increased remarkably once we detonated the first atomic bomb. There's no question about that. In fact, this particular team coming forward have dealt with the remains and on occasion living non-human life forms that have been downed, and some are still in captivity in subterranean facilities or STIFs.
To me, Dr. Greer, feels like, and you answered my other question, it feels like right now the public worldwide is being primed for something. You know, for the last 50 years, we've had movies about aliens. Going back to Roswell, we've had reports of flying saucers. And now people, not just in northern New Jersey, are seeing strange things in the sky. It seems like these beings are technologically far superior than we are. And they're doing this with incredible patience, priming a worldwide audience for something else. Do you agree with that? And then what are they priming us for?
Well, it's very complex, but the bottom line it is they've been waiting for humans to acknowledge their presence so that they don't have to force into it, which could look aggressive, because they're not aggressive, obviously.
Force into it like land in Times Square, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're not going to do something like that. They're going to do a sort of an acculturation and desensitization operation.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
Which means it's gradual.
Okay.
And it has been over the decades. Now, the big problem here are rogue military-industrial complex operations that have reverse engineered these extremely advanced technologies and can use them in staged event. And this is where everyone, when I say everyone, I mean everyone from the generals that I have briefed at the Pentagon to director of the CIA, past, incoming. And that is that they greatly underestimate what has been developed. I mean, Ben Rich, before he died, who was head of Lockheed Skunk Works, said, anything you can imagine, as you've seen on Star Trek, we've already figured out, and it's out there in the desert. He says, not Area 51.
Okay.
Talking about
how far ahead of us? And the last time you were on, you said there are multiple different alien societies from different planets visiting us.
Right.
How far ahead of us are they?
At least 60 to 70 that have been documented.
60 to 70.
That I know about, yes.
And how far, where are they technologically? 1,000 years ahead, a million years ahead?
They'd be in the many thousands to millions of years more advanced. And there are different civilizations at different development, both socially, spiritually, and technologically. None of them are hostile, obviously. With the kind of technology they have, they would have, as Congressman Burchett once said, it would be a charcoal briquette floating through space if they were overtly hostile. But they appear to be very concerned with our own hostility and the development of very powerful
If they landed, Dr. Greer, could they communicate with us?
I'm sure they can. I mean, I don't know how that would exactly take place. It may be some strange. Remember, one of the things that Elon Musk is working on at Neuralink is an interface between thought and machine.
Right.
But now, I will tell you, this is a big secret that's going to come out very quickly with this team, because they've dealt with this, is that there is a direct interface between technology and consciousness and thought that's been developed by these advanced civilizations. This is not Ma Bell we're talking about here in terms of communication. So that's just a prelude. We don't have time to unpack that, but I know about that in a very specialized fashion.
Let me just ask you, we're so tight on time, Dr. Greer. The Las Vegas suicide bomber. So he wrote this manifesto that they're trying to suppress like they do with everything else. But it sort of ebbs into this world. Is there any connection just between what is going to happen next week and what we saw in Las Vegas on New Year's Day?
Correct. There is. And again, that was sort of a psychological warfare operation by someone in special forces giving a heads up on this. It's not a coincidence it happened at the Trump building and that it was in a Cybertruck. He refers to gravitic propulsion systems. And that's what's going to be coming out, because we have mastered gravity control for decades. And this is why many of the craft people see that they think is alien.
And he wrote about that in the manifesto. Just a final question.
He did.
Following whatever happens next week, if it does happen, does Donald Trump need to appoint somebody like yourself as an alien czar or a UAP czar?
I would certainly consider it if I was asked, but that has not happened.
Dr. Greer, I'm interested to see what's really going on out there. We've got 10 days before the inauguration.
As soon as this drops and we get this from this team, we'll send it over to you.
All right. Dr. Stephen Greer, have a great weekend. Thank you so much for being with us.
All right, you guys heard it. A 10-day countdown. We're on it. I mean, he said somebody's coming forward before Trump gets in office, so that means we are on an official countdown. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that tracks with what we've heard from other sources, to be honest.
Okay.
There's been some rumblings behind the scenes that somebody important is going to be coming forward in a highly publicized interview. And at least that's what we've been told.
Right.
We don't know what the future is, obviously, but that's what we're being told, at least.
Yeah. And I've been on the lookout for it. I keep refreshing the YouTube page to see if that video has come out yet. But they said the beginning of January, and I'm at the point where I'm expecting it at any literal moment. So
yeah, exactly. Me too. Who knows? It could be today, it could be tomorrow.
Right.
We'll just have to wait and see.
Right. So Greer said a lot of very interesting things in that clip. He's talking about how these whistleblowers are just at the gate, ready to go. As mentioned in that clip, on the night of December 23rd, a flight crew flying an empty jet back to Fort Lauderdale encountered a glowing spherical object over the Bahamas. Not that far from the Bermuda Triangle, but not exactly over it either. So, mental note.
I would say it's roughly in the same place
Yeah.
that the Gulfstream jet hit that object over Fort Lauderdale.
Okay,
also.
so now we have 2 incidences in the same area, both of them kind of close to the Bermuda Triangle. So
and it's also in the same. It's not the exact same spot, but it's close enough that you could say that it is near where Ryan Graves said that they saw objects off the coast of Jacksonville.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. It's all along the same coast.
Exactly. His classic box inside of the sphere. You know, I mean, all up and down.
So what I'm hearing is
eastern side of Florida.
Hot spot.
Maybe, yeah.
This is a potential hot spot for sightings and for things to be going down. So let's just take a look at that one real fast and see what you guys think about that.
Remember the drone hysteria in New Jersey last month? We have a local story that pretty much tops that one. A crew on board a private jet spotted something high in the sky, and they shot this video of it, and they have no idea what they saw that night. Ari Odzer is joining us now from Fort Lauderdale with a first-hand account of this very bizarre sighting, Ari.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And there was definitely something in the sky that night. It was way too high to be a drone, moving way too fast and erratically to be a weather balloon. And the flight attendant who shot the video says several other aircraft reported seeing the same thing.
Ooh.
The aerospace world is full of flying machines that we all recognize. But sometimes people see things in the sky that defy explanation.
It started as white, and then it just got green and almost like an electric, some type of energy around it.
Cassandra Martin is a flight attendant for Surjet, a private air service. On the night of December 23rd, she says she and 2 pilots were flying back to Fort Lauderdale in an empty jet high over the Bahamas when air traffic control sent a message.
When all of a sudden I heard traffic control say, "We have a foreign object, can you please identify?" I looked to the left and pilot saw 3 objects, I only saw 1. And I grabbed my phone and I just pressed it to the window to see if I can get a video of what the object was. I don't know what it was. And then I zoomed in as much as the phone allowed me to. And the object was white. And then it turned slightly green, almost kind of like an electric field around it of some sort. And it stayed with us for about 45 minutes, and then we didn't see it again. And we were about 45,000 feet, and it was way above us.
What was the chatter like in the cockpit between you, the co-pilot, and the pilot as to what you were seeing?
I think we were astonished, and it was something that you really can't explain, but I don't have the qualifications to know what that is.
Having seen her video, what do you make of it?
Well, I think the video is compelling.
Brian Bender is a defense expert who works with a group founded by military pilots called Americans for Safe Aerospace.
Shout out Ryan Graves.
Any idea what that could be?
So, this video and this testimony rhymes a lot with a number of cases that we heard from military pilots going back even 10 or 15 years. And that is these orbs, or in some cases they call them tic-tacs. They were more sort of oblong in shape, but flying at very high altitudes, but then also being able to maneuver in ways that don't seem to make a lot of sense to us, at least as we know physics.
Was it a little bit eerie? Yes, because again, we were pretty high up, and whatever we saw was even higher than us, and it had the capability just to zigzag and change color. So that was a little, daunting to say the least. But it was also something fascinating that I was able to see and capture with my phone.
And she'll never forget that. Brian Bender, by the way, says the Pentagon has an office which investigates these sightings. And he says it's imperative for national security and for aviation safety that they figure out what these things are.
So I'm happy that they're talking about it on the mainstream news, on local news channels, especially bringing up Aero. I mean, at least they're telling people that there is a government agency put in place to study these objects.
And they mentioned Americans for Safe Aerospace in the same clip.
Yeah.
Which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
There were 2 things that
that
stuck out to me in that video. that I didn't really pick up on when I was like putting the clip together. First of all, she said that it was with them for 45 minutes.
Yeah, right. Me too.
So that's a pretty long time for them to be seeing it. It's 3 people just on that one plane. And then they said that there were other planes that also witnessed the same object. So I wonder if those other people on those other planes also have video of it. Because obviously, like, the more people filming the same thing, the better, because then you can collect all that data and really make something.
The way that I understand the story is that air traffic control reached out to the air crew, to that jet, to see if they could identify an unknown object that they were picking up.
So it was presented to them as an unknown object.
Right. So that tells me that either air traffic control had the object on radar, or other air crews were reporting that object to ATC, and they were trying to see if they could get more reports of it.
Well, hey, the more eyes on something, the better. I mean, that's just my opinion.
And also, she also said that they were at 45,000 feet, and whatever this object was way above where they were.
Okay. And why is that significant, Mr. Aviation Man?
Well, that's pretty high up, because 45,000 feet, the only airplanes that really fly above 45,000 feet are military. There's some Gulfstreams, and it looked like they were in a G4, a Gulfstream 4 business jet, and that's why they were able to fly so high. But really, the only airplanes that fly above 50,000 feet are military.
Okay. Gotcha.
So that's why.
And
that's
I don't think they would be questioning if it was a military vehicle or airplane or whatever, because they'd be transponding, right?
Right, unless it
was like a secret mission or something.
So military aircraft, they do fly without transmitting an ADS-B transponder or turning their transponders on, but typically those areas are known to ATC as a training zone.
Oh, okay.
You know, so they wouldn't contact, let's say, a business jet or a commercial airliner asking those pilots to try to identify something mysterious.
Gotcha.
Right.
Okay. I'm glad you know all that. And I'm not being sarcastic, I'm being serious. But the second thing that stuck out to me during that video is that she said that it was like zipping around. Right.
Oh,
so,
erratic movement.
Erratic movement. And the first thing that popped in my head is that that's one of the 5 observables. And I have the 5 observables right here on my phone, so I'm going to read them to you. The first one is sudden and instantaneous acceleration. Number 2 is hypersonic velocities without signatures. Number 3 is low observability. Number 4 is transmedium travel, meaning like air to water, water to air, air through earth, or any of them things. And then number 5 is positive lift. So when she said that it was zipping around, making erratic movements, I was like, ooh, that's one of the observables, and that's really relevant, because if something is just sitting there stationary, it's like not checking boxes, but once it starts making things that like defy our capabilities or defy our physics, that's when it like takes it up a notch for me.
Yeah, it's a very interesting account, and I'm happy that she got video of it.
Yeah.
And I thought it was also notable that she said it started out as like as a brilliant white, and then it morphed into this greenish color. And
she said it looked like there was like an aura of electricity around it.
Yeah.
So
they must have got pretty close to it. I mean,
well, they were looking at it for 45 minutes. So, I mean, I don't know. Worth mentioning.
It is worth
All right. We have some other things to show you. So in this next clip, we turn to a troubling incident involving drones and public safety. The FBI is working to piece together a drone that collided with a super scooper aircraft during the efforts to battle the Palisades fires in California. So let's take a closer look at that, because this is also relevant to having safe airspace.
Exactly. So, yeah, we realize that this doesn't really have anything to do with UAP, but it's a good point to bring up in the fact that these drone operators need to know when there is a temporary flight restriction in your area, and do not operate your drone in that area, because this is what could happen.
Exactly. And especially during a crisis, that's like worst case scenario, like the worst timing you could possibly have is during a crisis. And especially when there's only 2 of these planes operational, you take out one of them. We'll just show you the video.
We're getting a look at pieces of the drone that struck one of 2 super scoopers dropping water on the Palisades fire this week. It damaged one of the wings of the firefighting aircraft. That plane, a crucial piece of firefighting equipment, now out of service until Monday at the earliest.
As reporter Liz Nagy from our Chicago sister station explains, the FBI is now working to track down the drone's owner, who is facing some serious charges.
One of the highest-ranking
Dun, dun,
officials
dun.
here at the FBI office in Los Angeles put it this way: flying unauthorized drones over wildfires is extremely illegal and extremely dangerous. Now the investigators at this agency are trying to find the persons responsible for grounding a critical firefighting tool. A gaping hole in the wing has grounded one of Southern California's leased twin super scoopers when firefighters need it most. Investigators say this is the work of an unmanned, unauthorized drone that's now in pieces and part of a federal investigation. The low-flying, surface-skimming planes dip into the water before dumping its contents over blazing wildfires.
I'd just like to stress that technique, using those super scooper aircrafts, are our most effective technique to fight fires like this. And when this happens, it puts everybody's lives in risk.
The football-sized gouge in the plane's wing happened Thursday night as the plane worked to douse the Palisades fire.
It caused a 3 by 6 inch hole in the aircraft. Luckily, the aircraft was able to land safely.
But there, its work stopped instantly as the Palisades fire raged into its third straight night, threatening even more Los Angeles homes and families.
Our biggest concern is that there's so many unauthorized drones in the area that they are impacting law enforcement and firefighters' efforts to suppress this fire and actually get it contained.
The smoke-filled air over the Palisades fire was under a temporary flight restriction mandated by the Federal Aviation Administration and enforced by the FBI. That means the drone never should have been there, and investigators are now physically putting together
in
pieces.
trouble.
And we'll work backwards through our investigative means to try to recreate that drone and figure out what company owns that drone and who it was assigned to.
But as that happens, the plane sits in the hangar, temporarily rendered useless, only adding to the burden of overtaxed firefighters. That super scooper should be repaired and back in the air this week, but firefighters have lost critical time. The FBI says the people operating that drone could face the possibility of prison time, and they are warning people, keep your drones out of the air over fires.
So the first thing that I want to say about that whole situation is that our thoughts and our prayers go out to the people and to all the families that are affected by these fires, that have lost their homes, that have lost like literally everything. My heart also goes out to the wildlife that have nobody representing them, because I'm sure there was plenty of wildlife that lost their lives in this whole situation as well. And it's just like tragic. It's like worst case scenario. You got a fire, you're running out of water. The winds are blowing so freaking fast. It's like, what did he say? A 80-mile-per-hour blowtorch is what the situation was like.
Right.
And then you have 2 planes that could drop water on them, and one of them gets taken out by a drone that wasn't supposed to be in the area because it was a crisis. The whole thing is just very tragic. And like on a very serious note, my thoughts and my heart and my prayers go out to everybody affected by that. I wanted to say that before we said anything else. So go ahead now.
Okay. No, I just agree with you, and I want to reiterate that. It's a super tragic situation, and I definitely feel for all those people that have lost everything, and it's horrible.
Yeah,
I can't even imagine.
I can't either, and I don't even want to try.
No.
But it just goes to show, like Justin said before we showed the clip, that like when there are flight restrictions, that those should be honored, especially during a crisis. Like, I don't know who was operating that drone or what their intentions were, if they were just trying to get cool footage for a fucking YouTube video or something, but now you just literally like cost... I don't even want to get into it. Anyways. So we wanted to point that out, like we said earlier, because of the whole issue with the drone situation, because this is talking about drones. And then it also lends credence to the importance of safe airspace.
Exactly.
Let's also go back and touch on something that we spoke to you guys about last week. So last week there was a mid-air collision of a Gulf Stream and an unidentified metal object, where the unidentified metal object and this Gulf Stream collided, leaving
near
holes
Fort Lauderdale.
Near Fort Lauderdale.
27,000 feet.
Leaving holes in the side of this plane, and there's metal from that object in there. So I'm still holding on to the fact, or to the hope that we can go and test that metal and see what it's all about. But anyway, so Christopher Mellon had this to say on X. Another reminder that it is not only U.S. military pilots encountering strange spheres in the skies that are alarming due to the potential for mid-air collisions. A former astronaut who spent 15 years with NASA says he came into contact with mysterious metallic orbs while flying a plane last summer. Leroy Chow says he still doesn't know exactly what he saw. It remains a mystery. So we wanted to point out that reminder from last week. And then we also have this.
And then Ryan Graves says, thank you to everyone who reached out to us regarding the reported mid-air collision of a Gulfstream and an unidentified metal object on December 11th off the coast of Florida, near 27,000 feet, that resulted in engine loss and an emergency landing. A news source has indicated to us that while the data is not conclusive, there could be an unusual, but ultimately prosaic, casual factor that led to this incident.
Okay.
I'm still hoping to speak to the pilots who reported the event.
Okay, so I don't know what that prosaic explanation is, but I trust Ryan Graves, and if it was something anomalous, he would say so, and the fact that he's saying that it wasn't, I guess it wasn't.
I don't know, I'm still holding on to the hope that it is something anomalous, because then that would be tangible proof in hand that whatever this is, it's not made by humans.
Okay, okay.
Potentially.
I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then for those of you guys that are not really familiar with Americans for Safe Aerospace, which was put together by Ryan Graves, it's basically a nonprofit organization led by military pilots committed to ensuring aerospace safety and protecting national security, with a primary focus on UAPs. As the world's largest UAP organization by membership, they collaborate with Congress and government officials to enhance airspace awareness and close critical gaps that impact U.S. aviation safety and security. So shout out to them and what they do, and I'm glad that this is an opportunity to kind of highlight what they are and what they do.
Yeah.
Again. Right. And then the next thing that we want to show you is a clip from a recent interview with Chris Ramsey from Area 52 talking to James Fox. You'll see why we want you to hear this in a second.
This is a really good question. This is from Stan B. And Stan says, who's the first guest or witness you would get in front of the camera if they were allowed to break their NDA?
Hal Puthoff.
Wow, he was quick with that answer.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. I'd love to get him in the skiff. And
I have to be careful what I say here, but
I love when
let's
people
just say that I believe.
That means they're sitting on something juicy.
For reasons that I won't discuss, I believe he's a first-hand witness.
Wow.
I believe that.
I mean, from the interviews he even shared in the program, kind of caught me off guard, especially when he says, like, I've seen things that if I talk about, I'll go to jail.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's super interesting, right? I mean, that's a pretty big revelation that James Fox believes that Hal Puthoff is a first-hand experiencer or witness, that he has first-hand experiences working with these craft or NHI.
And we'll get into some details in just a second about what he's said even more recently than the phenomenon about working on these craft and reverse engineering and all that. But before we get to the specifics, I would like to highlight a post that someone who wishes to remain anonymous on the UAP Society, formerly known as UAP Society, now known as Lato Files Discord server. They made this post that says, I am stunned that in the last couple of weeks, we had a confirmed collision of a UAP with a private plane plus an overt FAA cover-up because they filed it as an incident, not an accident, which means there's no investigation. Tell me why they did that. Then we had a near miss with a pilot/astronaut with a UAP, talking about Leroy Chow. And then on top of that, we have multiple people openly confirming firsthand knowledge of reverse engineering on advanced craft manufactured off-world, which of course echoes Eric Davis back in 2019, private testimony to Congress, and Admiral Wilson in the Wilson-Davis memos. So, wow. Including tight-lipped, uber-careful Hal Puthoff, and hardly anyone is talking about or connecting these things. I mean, the lack of buzz is fucking stunning. WTAF is going on. Good question, Anonymous. That's what we would like to know. Thank you for bringing up all of those great points. Shout out to you.
Making those connections.
Right. And in case you're wondering what they're talking about regarding Hal Puthoff, check out this tweet from Larry Wilson.
Most significant interaction in the UAP field in months between Hal Puthoff and Richard Bandurek. People should be telling everyone they know about this. Hashtag UFO Twitter. Listen to that podcast. This from episode 69.
All right, and then the next bit is a little quote from this podcast where Hal and Richard are going back and forth. So you start off by reading Hal's, I'll read Richard's. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, we found that they were layered alloys at the micron levels, and none of our technologists, even in the big aerospace corporations, could make these layers bond together. So just by their physical construction, we could tell It was way beyond anything that could have been manufactured in our ordinary technology here on Earth.
Yeah, that's what I saw too. You were looking at the outside of a craft or materials that came from a crashed spacecraft or something?
Yes. So basically, Hal Puthoff is admitting to studying anomalous materials from crashed UAPs.
And I bet you James Fox knows some things, and that's why he said that if he could talk to anybody without their NDA being a factor, it would be him. So
Exactly.
And that quote came from a podcast called Ecosystemic Futures. So I haven't listened to it myself personally, but apparently there's a lot of buzz about it. There's a lot of people on Twitter talking about it, and the things that are being said in there are like, whoa, like UFO gold. Like they're talking about things that they haven't really talked about before, and they're doing it on such a like high level, and they're doing it so casually that it's kind of like off-putting. It's like they're talking about reverse engineering craft and all these materials like they're talking about making a fucking peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Like it's just super casual. So highly recommend you guys go check out that podcast.
Definitely gonna have to listen to it.
And yeah, I'm recommending for myself to go check it out. I'll add it to the list of things I need to look up.
Yeah.
Or look at, not look up.
And then last sort of rambling riff on this, but I was just listening to basically it's like a NASA sponsored podcast on kind of like
I was just gonna ask you about that, dude.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Holy shit. Okay, cool. That was my next question. Okay, let me ask it because there seems to be like they're more loose in what they're talking about now. Scientists. We saw Hal. I wanted to ask you if you knew about these other two that I found very interesting. It's Hal Puthoff, it's Anna Brady Estevez, and Richard Bandrick. I saw Richard's patents, and those were really interesting. They even talk about this extended electrodynamics. What's the deal there? Because I saw like they were talking about stuff very matter of fact, like it's real, like a lot of I thought that was a lot of disclosure just in that podcast alone of new technology. Please give me your assessment of that because that's very interesting to me.
Yeah, I found that remarkable. And yeah, that conversation was wild. The one in particular with Hal, and I feel like they had like 6 or 7 other kind of performers, right, to kind of feature small business research at sort of the frontier and advanced propulsion concepts. And they were speaking matter-of-factly about, the inspiration for doing this research from UAPs, and how we need to like very seriously drive sort of frontier research on these subjects, right? Like extended electromagnetic kind of variations of general relativity, where maybe there's some coupling between electromagnetism and gravity, or sort of lattice fusion, kind of like this idea of like cold fusion, essentially, right? Where you can use certain structures of materials to get kind of nuclear reactions done without these big tokamak or sort of plasma fusion systems. Talking about like even like faster than light communications, like crazy,
that was
like scalar vector, like sort of scalar potentials, and like pretty like out there, kind of beyond the frontier of current physical paradigms. And speaking about it very, very matter of factly in the context of like government R&D objectives. And actually, I was going to go back because I need to like almost try to find a transcript or do my own, because there's a particular exchange towards the end, like the last quarter, where one of the might have been Richard, whoever was the fusion guy doing like the lattice stuff, was describing how they had collected these tiny little material examples of like some anomalous material, and how it was like suggestive of something, and then Hal kind of riffed off of that and described how they've identified these sort of materials where sort of the pattern of construction given the isotopic ratios are just very anomalous, and it clearly require manufacturing techniques that are way beyond anything that we have. And the guy was like, "Oh, so like, is that from like a craft that you've been given access to?" Or I think it was like, because he was like comparing between, he's like getting these like just little droplets or whatever that they find from some encounter out in the field, and then he's like, "Well, look, like is this from, Hal, like, is this from like a craft or like material? He's like, and Hal admits basically, yes, like these are from like crash retrievals, right? So I need to look at the exact terminology or that exact phrasing, but I heard that it seemed like a pretty direct admission by Hal that he had studied materials from UAP crash retrievals.
There was another part where they talk about 0 point energy. They ask him a question.
Yeah.
There seems to be like an edit out where you can see that they cut it out. Maybe Hal asked him to because he maybe answered something and he didn't want it to be public.
Yeah. That was a wild conversation. I still need to sort of digest it.
Next up, President-elect Donald Trump weighs in on the mysterious drone sightings in New Jersey and other states. In a bold statement, he says, "I think it's ridiculous that they're not telling you about what's going on with the drones." Let's hear what he has to say.
The story that kind of disappeared very suddenly. Do you have any idea whatever happened to the drones?
What happened to drones?
Well, you had said that you knew you thought the government knew what was happening with these drones over New Jersey. There were some by Bedminster.
I don't know. They're over Bedminster a lot, so I can imagine. I'm going to give you a report on drones about 1 day into the administration, because I think it's ridiculous that they're not telling you about what's going on with the drones. And it's not only with me. Glenn was telling me today that in Virginia they have drones all over the place too, and nobody's reporting it. I don't know why they're not. Do you want to say something about that?
Just one quick comment, which is we are home to the largest naval base in the world in Quantico, and we house a lot of the SEAL teams and have a huge national security infrastructure. And now for 2 years running, we have had drone incursion over secure airspace, and we still don't know why. And I think that's absolutely unacceptable. I think President Trump and the new leadership coming in, I think, will work diligently to understand who's behind this and what we do in order to stop the digital surveillance of all of our secure infrastructure.
Is it dangerous?
Well, I can tell you this. While we were dealing with a terrorist attack in New Orleans, we had drones being flown over our nuclear reactors in Louisiana. And we brought that attention to the FAA. We've been asking the FAA to give these states the ability to mitigate these drones, and it's sitting on some bureaucrat's desk. And that's real.
Nobody knows. They don't want to talk about it. Go ahead, Governor, you're going to say?
I was just going to say we have drones in Wyoming flying over our infrastructure as well. And it's incredibly frustrating that we not only have no way of knowing what it is, but nobody knows how to deal with them.
They don't want to talk about it, and nobody knows why. They don't want to talk about it. That could be us sending drones. I hope that's the case, us doing it and doing research, and maybe they don't want to talk about it from that standpoint. I hope it's not an enemy, but we're going to find out on the 21st, the day after. You have to give me a little time for the inauguration, but shortly thereafter, we'll give you a report on it. We'll tell you exactly what it is. They know, and it's very strange that they aren't talking about it. Peter, thank you very much.
So there you have it.
The 21st, you guys. He said the day after he's sworn in. We shall see.
Yeah, apparently they know what's going on and they're just not talking. So if what Dr. Greer says does not come true, at least, hopefully, we have this to fall back on.
And what if Trump falls through too? Then we're just left with a double Whopper nothing burger.
Man, that would suck. I didn't even think about that.
That would double suck. I mean, okay, so we have to see if one of Greer's whistleblowers is going to be coming forward between now and 10 days from now. And then Donald Trump says on the 21st of January, 2025, he's going to tell us what the fuck's up with the drones.
So I don't know. I've remained hopeful right now.
Okay.
But
we'll hang on to that glass half full, rose glasses kind of thing. Why not? All right, guys. So what are your thoughts on this story? What do you think of Dr. Stephen Greer's whistleblowers and what they might reveal? How concerning are incidents like the Gulfstream collision or the drone damage to the Super Scooper? Do you think Trump will prioritize releasing information on drones and UAPs to the public during his presidency as promised? Make sure to drop us a comment down below to let us know. And you can also share your ideas with us on the Lato Files Discord server as well. An invite link can be found in the video description box below, along with the link to all of the sources found in this show in the order that they appear, so please make sure to check that out.
And that concludes this week's UAP Society's UAP News Show. Thanks so much for hanging out with us, and while you're here, do us a favor, smash that like button, click subscribe, ring that notification bell, leave us a lovely comment down below, and share this video with your family and friends to help us spread the good word.
Let's raise the collective consciousness together in unity.
All right.
Much love, peace, and namaste.